Uh, Hello and welcome everyone to this session of next section of being CEO. And today this session is on future leadership culture with Mr. Tony Lynch. And this is Zeeshan Ali as usual. And with me is Saqib Javed John.
Hi. Thank you so much, Zeeshan. And it's really an honor for us that we have a guest with us, a very honorable guest with us, Mr. Tony Lynch. And actually, we have two paid sessions with Mr. Tony on the 12th of December and 16th January 2021. But this session is basically, we invited Mr. Tony to give some introductory session on the first one, that is the future leadership culture. Actually, Mr. Tony is a CEO, founder of Keep Thinking Big. This company basically provides the business growth consultancy, because Mr. Tony is the executive coach, he's a mentor, he's a trusted advisor, strategic thinker, leadership and sales trainer. And last but not the least, he is a TEDx speaker. So we welcome Mr. Tony in this session, and we will understand that how he equipped the people and the businesses with his leadership, culture and strategies, profitability, performance and productivity. And he's really very good at the team development and team engagement. So this is again an honor for us, and this is a great opportunity for all of us whoever watching this program, this session, that it is time to understand that how the organization culture or their future can be transformed according to the needs of the time. So Mr. Tony, it's over to you. You please start your session, and later on we will enter into the question answer area.
Well, first of all,
Over to you, Mr. Tony.
Great, thank you. First of all, thank you ever so much for inviting me today. I'm really excited to be with you and with all of you who are listening in. Welcome. And I guess we've got people here actually from different time zones from around the world. So can I give you a big warm welcome? As you know, my name is Tony Lynch. My company is called Keep Thinking Big. Isn't that what we should be doing in these days? That we should be thinking big. And this applies to every part of our life. This applies to leadership. This applies to when you're looking at personal growth. This applies to in any form of leading a company and a family as well. We've got to be those who think big. I expect you probably know some people who would love you to think small. But actually, I want to say to you today, keep thinking big, because the world needs people like you and I to be thinking big. So it's an honor to be here today just to speak briefly really about future leadership and how I see future leadership. And as a business growth consultant, I'm working with a number of people in different parts of the world. And I'm hearing how they are able to transform their own leadership. And I've been able to be part of their journey for that. So some of the information that I'll be sharing with you today, and also on the 12th of December and the 19th of January, we'll be taking a deeper dive into what is really working for leaders today, and also what is not working for leaders today, and where leaders have to be agile and where leaders have to change and adapt in order sometimes to give up certain things to go up to the next level within their leadership. So we are, we're coming through a very, very tough year. But as we enter into a new year, again, leadership is going to be very, very important. In the words of one of my mentors, John C. Maxwell, John says that leadership is influence. I wonder if you have ever thought, what is leadership? Could I define it in like a sentence? Well, John describes leadership is influence, nothing less and nothing more. He also goes on to say that everything rises and falls upon leadership. I've got to confess to you, the first time I heard that, I thought, That's an interesting comment. I need to think about that further. And actually, as I thought about that further, do you know what? I realized it was true. Literally everything rises and falls upon leadership. Where we are today is a reflection upon the choices we made yesterday. Where we'll be tomorrow will be a reflection upon the leadership that we take today in our own lives and in the lives of others as we look to lead them. Often people say to me as a business growth consultant, TonyLynch, how would you describe leadership as we work with you? And if you're writing this down, make a note. For me, I would define leadership in the following way. Leadership is the ability to lead others to places they could not have gone without you. I could do a half-day workshop and seminar in that. In fact, actually, to be honest, if we only went away today just with that and we got the gold from that, I can assure you it would transform the way you lead people. It would impact your teams to come with you to the next level. It would inspire you with vision, because I said leadership is the ability, so we're able to. Leadership is a skill, is a talent that can be learned. So I want to tell you today, people aren't born with that leadership gift from day one, but leadership is a skill that can be developed over time. Leadership is the ability to lead others. So therefore, if you're a leader today and nobody's following you and you're just on a journey by yourself, but actually, if you are a good and effective leader, leadership is the ability to lead others to places. So therefore, what's that say to me and what's that say to you? That there's vision within good leadership. So future leaders, as we look at future leadership, that must come with vision. That must come with expectation, because we're leading people to places. And, we can't lead in the dark. If we want to be effective in our leadership, we have to have clarity. And so first of all, we go from, as it were, confusion. I call it my 2 C's. We go from confusion to clarity. We go from confusion to clarity. And as you grow a business, as you look to develop yourself, as you look to see, what is that role of the CEOs so that I can do that effectively? Sometimes people are not clear. And therefore, they've got to look at the confusion and bring that to clarity so that they're clear on where they're going in their journey. So as I work with people, as I help them to start their own business, as I help them to scale their own business, and it's really interesting, just in the last 4 months, I have had so many CEOs, business owners, reach out to me to say the first half of this year was a challenging time, and we went into crisis mode. We went into that crisis mode. But now what we're doing is we're now looking at scaling. We now need to build. And so we've gone from maintaining now to creating. We've gone from maintaining to creating. And we want to work with somebody like you that can help us now to grow our business, to help us now to scale our business. I tell you, friends, this is how the mentality shift is now changing in this new world. There is no future leadership without being an effective leader today. You're not going to just one day wake up and be a good leader. No. It happens day by day. Good leadership is not a destination, it's a journey. It's the choices we make every day. And with good leadership, you can bring people with you. So today, if you're listening to this and you're thinking, actually, what I want to do is I want to know how to grow my business. I want to know how I can help my team. If I want to grow my business, what should I be doing? First of all, we look at vision, the vision of where we're going. We then look at the mission. The mission is the how-to, the blueprint. I come across many people who would say to me, Tony, I've got a dream. This is where I want to go. And I applaud them for that. But you know what? I admire people more who can answer the following question. The question that I would then ask is, tell me about your blueprint. Tell me about your process for progress. If you see somebody who is successful, I can always assure you that they have a process for progress. If you see somebody very successful, you can ask them about that process, and they'll be able to articulate that very quickly because they've come to clarity that I spoke about. They now have a process to put into place. So they've got a vision, they've got mission, they now have good values, they've looked at their values, they've looked at their offering, and now they're moving forward. So if you want to scale a business, if you want to develop a business, develop your team, develop your team. When you hear me speak on the 12th of December, I'm going to be sharing with you 7 key insights to being an effective business owner and leader. If you want to learn more about that, certainly come to that. But actually, I've taken it from the word leaders. So, leaders has got 7 letters, and I've taken it all from that word. But let's very quickly just look at the first one, just to give you an idea. L, leaders. Leaders are learners. Learners are leaders. The more you learn, the more you grow. The more you grow, the more impact you'll have with those around you. And the more productive and profitable your business will be. So what are the 3 things that an effective leader needs to be learning? Because to be an effective leader, you don't have to learn everything, but there are key things that you have to be learning. So the first one is, what am I learning about myself, about my own style of leadership? Is my leadership attractive, or does it discourage? Because I tell you, with good leadership, talent doesn't come and go, but talent comes and grows. Is that the type of leader you are today? Or maybe you want to aspire to that and you want somebody to help you to get there. Let me say that again. With good leadership, talent doesn't come and go, but talent comes to your team, and through your leadership, talent grows. So first of all, we look at ourselves. We look at our blind spots. A leader is a learner. What am I learning about myself? What should I be learning? Maybe it's the communication style. Maybe it's how we do develop teams. The second one is, what am I learning about the team that I'm leading? What am I learning about them? What am I learning about their skill set? What am I learning about what they can bring to the table? Have I fallen into the trap that I've employed them and I only really employ their hands and feet? I don't employ their brains, their creativity. As a leader, do I just come with all the answers, or do I believe and do I expect that the answers can be found within my team? What am I learning about my team? Because I can tell you that anyone who leads a team, there is gold within that team. However, as a manager, as a leader, sometimes we have to be coached in a way to learn to mine, to develop, to draw out that skill set, that talent. So how are you doing on a scale of 1 to 10 in developing your team? So I learn about myself. I'm learning about my team. And the more I learn about my team, the more I can understand and appreciate the strengths that they have. Guess what? There may be people on your team who are stronger than you in certain areas. And therefore, what you do is you don't look to compete, but you look to complete each other. And therefore, together, you've got a strong foundation to move forward. Hey, you and I, we all want to be on a winning team. We want to be on a winning team. And the way to be on a winning team isn't to compete with each other, not to have one over on somebody else, but actually as a leader, as a manager, as a team leader, somebody responsible for a team, that you look at your teammates and you really believe that actually I'm better off on this team because they're on my team. Now that talks about culture. That talks something about the DNA of the business. And therefore, I'll say it again, if you want to grow an effective company, look at mastering the skills of developing the talents around you. Effective leaders, I know this, effective leaders, they know how to build confidence within their teams. Maybe your team doesn't need more orders. Maybe they need encouragement and confidence. And when we have confidence within our team, guess what? The creative ideas, they start to come to the table more and more. And your team, they come to the table ready to participate. And therefore, the first one is leaders are learners. We learn about ourselves. We learn about our team. Now, the third one is that actually now we learn about our customers. We learn about our offering. We learn about the product that we're going to be marketing. So therefore, we need to learn about our customers. We need to learn about our clients. You may say, Tony, when I started in business, I checked out all of my clients and I know what they want. Guess what? The way buyers buy today has changed. And we need to help those. And we need to be strategic in that. You can go to my website, keepthinkingbig.com, and you can download a white paper that I've put together on how to think strategically, but how to put a strategic plan into place that will cover some of the things that I'm sharing right now. So we need to listen to our customers. We need to listen to our clients. In this world that we live in, we're hearing more and more about market intelligence, and hey, you could pay a lot of money for market intelligence. But as I work with my clients, I tell them the following. Some of the best marketing intelligence you have got are literally at your fingertips. Why is that? Because you have customers and clients walking into your place every day. You've got past data. Maybe your type of business is something that you have to keep data. Data in one sense is totally worthless if you don't do anything with it. But actually, if you begin to understand the value within data, if you begin to understand the value of that repeat customer, that client, then you can see how you can serve people better. And therefore, I often say, if you want to learn about how to be that go-to person in your marketplace that people come to again and again and again, begin to ask good questions of your customers. This is a question I often will encourage people in sales when I talk about sales, is if you've got a customer, let's just say you're in the hospitality business. You've got a restaurant, maybe. It could be any business, but I'm just going to choose this one. And there's this couple coming in for a meal. Now, I live in England. If I go out for dinner with my wife, we'll order our food, and about 5 minutes into the meal, a waitress may come up to us and say, is everything okay with your meal? And, unless it's burnt, we probably will say, yes, it's absolutely lovely. Thank you very much. Do you know what? That's a totally missed opportunity. One, that's a closed question. They're not going to learn anything from that. Listen to this question. Mr. and Mrs. Lynch, thank you ever so much for coming to dine at our restaurant tonight. Hey, we know you could have gone to anywhere else, but we appreciate your custom. What we'd love you to do is I've just got one question for you to consider whilst you're having your meal. And the one question is for you. What is the one thing that we could do to enhance that customer experience with you tonight? Now, I'm going to leave that with you, and I'll come back to you later. A bit later on, they come back. And they say, do you know what? It's really difficult to answer that because, the meal was good. They bought us drinks on time, etc. But, as we had to think about one thing was actually when we came in the front door, we had to wait 2 or 3 minutes and we felt a bit awkward. Thank you for that feedback. Next day, what are you going to do with that when you have your team meeting? We need somebody at the door a bit quicker to acknowledge people when they come in. Guess what? When Mr. and Mrs. Lynch come back in again and somebody jumps up to greet them, they're going to feel, oh, they listened. You partner with your customers. You partner with your customers. You do my 3 L's. You listen, you learn, and then you lead the change that has to happen. But that leading has come through, you could say, that market intelligence in actually learning from your customers. So you ask questions. So as I begin to bring this into land, I know that leaders are learners, learners are leaders. And therefore, we have to learn about ourselves. We have to learn about our teams. We have to learn about our marketplace. Now, when we begin to put that together, we begin to be very effective as a leader, as a corporation, as a business growing. If you want to develop that business, follow the model that I'm sharing. I've been in business since 1995. I've helped many people in many countries establish and grow their own businesses. I've been in business, as I said, since 1995, worked through a number of recessions. I know what it's like to lead a business. I know what works and what doesn't work, and how people have to be agile in order to grow their leadership and their team to be highly, highly effective. When you have a team, effective leaders, they know how to maximize the strength within their teams. Good leaders, it's not all about them. If I'm a good leader, it's because about my team. It's about my team who I'm raising. It's about how effective everyone is on the team. I know their skills, I know their strengths, and I can help them. And part of my leadership is to really allow them to fly in alignment with the vision that I have for the business. So I want to encourage you warmly to come and hear more. And, one of the things that I do see, and then I'll hand this back in just a moment, a lot of people now around the world are working from home. We have this new terminology, remote teams. The way managers manage now is changing. A typical manager has not had training on how to lead remote teams, unless you had remote teams when you first joined, because the world has changed. And therefore, the way we manage teams is totally changing. And one of the ways that I see that leadership is changing now for the future, when we talk about future leadership, is that leaders are now leading much more from a coaching style, because a coaching style will take hold of those working remotely, as well as those working within your physical office. Leadership is changing, and what I see is leadership is changing much more with that coaching role, because it takes a different type of leader to be able to basically lead 2 groups at once, those with you and those working remotely. And therefore, there's a gap at the moment. Maybe you recognize that within your team. For me, I'm a business growth consultant, and what I do is I help people, I empower people to have a much more successful and strategic approach in business. But one of the ways I do that is I literally help them to identify and close the gaps between expectations and results. Maybe as I've spoken, you've thought, Tony, yeah, I can see I've got some gaps. Good news for you. Those gaps don't need to remain gaps. But what I do know about gaps is if you want to build a business, you cannot build a business upon gaps. You've got to close the gaps and then you build upon them. You close the gaps and you build upon them. So good leadership can identify and determine, where we are today, but where do we want to be tomorrow? So I want to leave you with that thought. hey, it's been great to just be sharing with you just a bit of what's to come. I know we've got some questions that are coming as well, which I'm looking forward to answering. And I hope to see you all very soon. If you've got a question for me direct, you can drop me an email at Tony, Tony, at keepthinkingbig.com. Go there and also download that white paper that I was mentioning to you about earlier. Thank you.
Thank you, Tony. That was really poetic.
Thank you.
Really brilliant. Really brilliant. I really enjoyed that, and I hope all our audience enjoyed that too. Okay, now moving to some of the questions. I will ask Saqib to start with some questions, and then we can move it on from there. Okay. Over to you, Saqib.
So, Mr. Tony, thank you so much for this wonderful learning session. And we will definitely want nothing should be left in the blind spot. So the first question which we would like to ask is basically, the performance and the productivity of the people and leadership. People talk too much about the leadership and the performance and productivity. So what is basically the real connection between these two things?
It's a good question. I think, every business obviously wants productivity. You don't start a business not wanting productivity or profitability. And that's a sign, that's a hallmark of a good business. We've got productivity and we've got profitability. Sometimes, we don't have the two, by the way. Sometimes we have productivity and we don't have profitability, and that's a gap that needs to be closed. But that comes down to margins. But when you talk about that real connection about productivity and performance, the way I often look at this is that a good leader, yes, they want to get to productivity. Yes, they want to get to profitability because they're growing an organization. But what I see the most effective people do differently is that when they look at this, they don't necessarily look at the productivity. What they do is they look at their team and they ask themselves the following question: how, as a leader, can I empower my team to be the best that they can be? And when we look at empowering our teams, do you know what? Productivity is looked at in a different way. It's not just a number on a board, but actually people come with a sense of empowerment. So actually they come with empowered ideas, because actually you might have an idea of the level of productivity you want to get to. Can I say this? That when you empower your team, don't be surprised if that productivity level is broken and increased. Because actually what you've done is, if you just simply look at the way you've always done things, you're beginning to box it, like, a bit like this Zoom room, we're in a box here. But actually when we come to empower our teams, they look at the possibilities in a different way. So as a leader, to answer your question, I would say, to have the best connection is actually perhaps coming from a slightly different angle and asking the question, how can I empower my team to be the best that they can be in order to meet some targets, some productivity that we're looking to? But actually, I'm not boxing them into, this is how it always must be done. Saqib, yeah.
Zeeshan, would you like to conclude or ask the next question? And you are on the mute.
Thank you, Saqib. Okay, Tony, thank you for that answer. You have talked a lot about leadership, and obviously there are different kind of people and different kind of leaders. So, in your experience, which leadership style do you think is which one inspires you most, and how effectiveness of that certain leadership style can be evaluated?
Yeah, it's often a good question, isn't it? That, when you gather together, you can ask, what's the sort of leader that inspires you, maybe inspiring you today or somebody from the past? So it's a great question. When I look at what I admire within good leadership, effective leadership, is first there's a sense of authenticity. They're real. They're real. And so, what's one of the things that inspires me about a good leader is that they're authentic. So that tells me they're very committed, but do they get everything right? No, they don't always get everything right. And so something that inspires me about a leader is when a leader says, I'm sorry, that didn't work out the way we thought it would. I got it wrong. There's an authenticity. There's an openness. And so therefore, being authentic, being open is a very attractive way in leadership. I'd say also the other thing is that to be an effective leader, leaders need to lead. Leaders lead. And therefore, do I see within this particular leader a sense of growing, a sense of getting things done? So an effective leader must be somebody who can articulate vision, but also what they do is they bring vision into reality. Otherwise, you have a leader who's just thinking big. Hey, my company's called Keep Thinking Big. But actually, we don't want people just to be thinking big. We want to be able to translate that into actions. So for a good leader, they should be somebody of vision, but they can bring vision into reality today, and they can draw a team. So something else I admire about a leader is how many other leaders are they raising up? How many other leaders are they raising up? Are they just raising up followers, or are they raising up leaders? Maybe within an organization, you need to be raising up different people. I encourage you to look at, your, as it were, your leadership factory. How many leaders are you raising? Look back at 2020, think about 2021. How many leaders am I looking at raising over the next year? So again, a testimony for me, something I'd admire in a good leader is how effective are they in developing a team, in raising leaders to move forward. Because a coaching style within leadership often will do a number of things, but let me just raise two of them. And I think this speaks into this clearly, is that with the coaching style, it raises awareness and responsibility. Now think about that in a team context. Think about that in a business context. You're now raising through coaching, through good coaching style, through leadership, awareness and responsibility. So people on your team, they become aware of what they should be doing. They become aware, hey, perhaps of the talents within them that can be developed. And so now they're aware of that. Now they must take responsibility. They must take responsibility. And so therefore, when we see, a leader who brings a vision, but as I said, they can bring that vision into reality today. What that means for me is that actually that vision is going to be impacted by me one way or the other, by what I bring to the table or what I don't bring to the table. So therefore it's responsibility. So my responsibility towards that vision. So therefore, that's another attribute you could say that I admire within a good leader, because they're able to raise up other leaders, people who see ahead, but also become aware and they take responsibility. So those are a few things that I admire about good leaders. And also the other thing, and then perhaps we'll move to a different question, is When you see an effective leader, they are always, always, always learning something new. When you get to the day where you say, I know it all, stop leading, because you have stopped leading. Because actually leaders, you know, there's something attractive about a leader who's always growing. There's something attractive about a leader who's always moving ahead, because they bring people with them. They know how to, as it were, get the best from people. They know how to multiply the effectiveness of people. So are they learning? So the question for you as a leader, what have I learned about myself in the last 30, 60, 90 days? Often I ask people, when was the last time you did something for the first time? Think about that within your leadership role. Think about that of a leader that you admire. You might think of a leader that you admire and they've achieved something. Guess what? They hadn't achieved that before, but they had to step out to achieve it. And that's a part of a good leadership. And with that, then you begin to model leadership, which was really your question. You know, what are the things that I admire and other people admire about a good leader is actually they are modeling something, but they've had to go through that process in order to become a good model. But then they keep growing, and they keep moving forward.
Well, golden words from you, Tony.
So,
Okay.
Mr. Tony, thank you so much for the answer. Mr. Tony, what do you think? What are the three top most skills a leader should have? And connecting another question with the same, what do you think? What are the three major and more important roles of a leadership that must be performed?
Yeah, probably I would say something that I referred to, as it were, the top part of my talk is, you know, about the skills, you know, the important roles of a leader is leadership is, not will be, but leadership is the ability to lead others to places they could not have gone without you. So one of the skills of a leader is, do they have vision? Yes, they do. Do they have vision? Are they able to articulate that vision? Now, hey, this is where often there's a gap. There's a gap here, because a leader may, and you know, I sit down with those who are very successful in business, and one of the things I appreciate about them is that not only do they have a vision of where they're going, but they are able to articulate that vision. So what they are is that they now become a vision caster. They can cast a vision very easily. When I work with some other people, they get very frustrated because they say, Tony, I've got this vision, I've got this picture in my mind of where I want to go to in my business. I put it to my team, but my team aren't following. That's because what has happened is that they have just shared a picture. They've just shared a picture. They haven't really casted a vision. There's a skill in crafting a vision, but there's also a skill in how you cast that vision to other people, to bring people on. Because actually, when you cast that vision in a clear way, guess what happens? People see where they are in that picture. And so even before you come to land that vision, they're already saying, hey, sign me up. I want to go with you. I can see where you're going. So to answer the question is, one, they should have that vision. But secondly, they should be able to articulate that vision very well. The other thing is, a skill of a leader, I would say, is that they must have a heart for people. They must have a heart for people. You know, it's not just heart for business. Let me say that again. It's not just a heart for business, but they must have a heart for people. Because You and I, we don't work with a business idea often. We work with people to develop that business idea. And therefore, a leader should be somebody who has got a heart for people. Now, for some, that comes easier than for others. And when I work with people on their communication skills, we'll often be able to close the gap in how they communicate with people in such a way that they can really understand where people are coming from. And they can learn, but they can bring people with them. So they should be authentic, have a heart for people. But also the other thing I see as well is that an effective leader is a good listener, They can sit and they can listen. They can sit and they can listen. They're not just waiting for a gap in the conversation to have their piece to say. No, they listen to those around them. It's often said that people won't listen until they feel they've been heard. If you're running a company, your team needs to know that you are hearing from them. So the ability or the inability of a leader who is able to listen will have huge impact on the development of their team. And unfortunately, or fortunately, if we don't get this one right, it's very difficult to take a business forward. Very difficult, because people sometimes move on and fall out. And do you know what? It's often recognized that when somebody leaves a company, they don't leave a company, they leave people. There was a breakdown. And therefore, it's really important that the leader has the ability and the skill to listen. Now, listening is a learnable skill. Doesn't happen overnight. It's part of a journey. And this is one of the things I teach about, how to listen effectively to those around you so that they know that you're not just giving lip service, but you're listening, you're hearing, and you're understanding. So listening is really key. The other thing, I'm not sure if this is 3 or 4 now, but the other thing is that they're very strategic in how they think. They're very strategic in their planning. They're able to think very big picture. And they know that if we do this, how it will impact this. They're very strategic. So, they could look at an idea that somebody brings to them and they can see that in a bigger sense. So from a strategic point of view, they're a great strategic thinker. Thinking is often one of the most difficult and easiest things to do. To become a strategic thinker does take time. But when you've got a coach, when you've got a mentor helping you from a strategic point of view, as you look to develop a team or your own business, then it can help you develop that business at a much faster rate, because they're seeing things often that you're not seeing. They're able to bring questions in where perhaps you haven't questioned and you need to question. They're able to see things from a much bigger viewpoint, and it does save so much time. It saves so much time. I think I've answered that question, hopefully.
Yes, I think, and same kind of question we got from Umair as well. And I think you mentioned it right, that a leader should be communicating through being an active listener.
Yes.
Okay. We talked about how it takes to be a leader, and but accountability of a leadership. What process you recommend for that, and what kind of synchronization you see should have between the heart and the mind of a leader?
Can you just repeat the very first part of that question?
Accountability of a leadership.
Right.
Which process would you recommend for the accountability of a leader?
Okay, great. I just wanted to make sure I had clarity on that.
Sure.
We often hear about the word accountability, don't we? It's obviously posed in that question. And I've looked at this, and I've worked with lots of people on this. And this is my own conclusion, is that accountability is good. However, not all accountability is good. Why do I say that? Because there is some accountability that may happen with the style of management, you could say, that is very micromanage. Therefore, if you've got a skill or talent, keep it quiet. You're just here to do a job. You're accountable to me as a manager. And there's no more after that. But what I see with the most effective is that with good accountability increases your capability. Good accountability, effective accountability, can increase your capability. So therefore, a leader, I would say, who is somebody who wants to grow, who doesn't think I've got all of the answers, they're going to be accountable to somebody. Now, the question is, well, in fact, the presumption is rightly so that they should be. The question is, who should they be accountable to? Sometimes it might be somebody outside the organization that can help them very much to grow. So therefore, what they want to do is they want to have an accountability partner, a coach maybe, a business growth consultant, somebody who can help them see things from a new and a different perspective to help them grow. Because, as I said, with good accountability, that can increase your capability. So that person, when you're accountable to them and you come to them and you say, hey, I've got this idea and I want to do this and I'm ready to go, they might say, I'm not sure if that's the best way forward. Are you open to another suggestion? Let me give you a quick story on this. I was coaching somebody a while ago, and they've got a team, and they're in fact a coach and a trainer. And I was coaching them for a while, and they came to the point where they said they said to me in a coaching session, Tony, we need to grow the business, and so what I need to do is I need to get new clients. I need to get some more customers on board. Well, that would seem a logical thing to do for business that wants to grow. Everybody would like to get more customers. But I turned around and I said, I'm going to call this person Bob. Bob, I've got a question for you. Okay, what is it? Are you open to another suggestion? And Bob hesitantly said, yes. Okay. My question is, have you maxed every one of your existing clients? In other words, have you told them everything you've done and you're doing everything you can for all of your customer base? And he answered that straight away. He said, yes. And I said to Bob, you answered that very quickly. I want you just to think about it a moment. And I just want you to think, is there any other customers that perhaps you're not providing everything you could for them? Bob's being accountable to me. I'm being a challenger to him. Why am I being a challenger to him? I don't want him to think small. I want him to strategically build his business big. And so I could see the wheels going in his mind. And he said, no. There is one. I said, okay, tell me about the person. Well, they've got this company. We've been working for them for a couple of years. And, they're probably our biggest client. And, we don't want to mess anything up. So we just produce every month for them. Yeah, but is there anything you could produce? Anything more? Cut a long story short, Bob went and he met with this person. And he said, I just want to tell you as a company, we're seeking to grow. You've been happy with the services so far, but I want to tell you that we're looking to grow our business. And, we want to make sure that we're servicing you in every way possible. Is there anything in your business at the moment that we're not servicing for you that we could be servicing for you? By the end of that conversation, the end of that meeting, that person, that business owner turned around to Bob and said, Bob, you can have all of my HR business. It's a phenomenal win. At our next coaching session, he was so excited, he was telling me about it. I asked him a question. I knew the answer to this question, I've got to say. I said, Bob, tell me, how much did that cost you? 0. No marketing, no advertising. Did it put a bigger number on the bottom line? Yes, it did. Very interesting what he said to me, though. He said, the reason why we didn't go back to him until you really pushed us on it was we thought we would be seen as being too greedy. Had a change in his mentality and his thinking. And he won all of that work. That has had a huge impact on his business. The reason why I share that is if you have a business that is reliant, like most businesses, on customers, retaining customers and clients. If you do not look after your customers and clients, guess what? Somebody else will. Somebody else will. And Bob could have lost that contract because what he did not know was that this business owner was looking for somebody to do their HR work. And a company could have come in and said, we'll do all of your coaching and we'll do your HR. Phone Bob. Bob, thanks ever so much for the last 2-3 years. We're moving on. He kept it. I want to put a question to you. Does that story resonate with you? Is there somebody that you need to go back to, that you're supplying a service to today, to ensure that you are maximizing that opportunity? Because what you will do is you will help buyers buy. You will produce a better quality of service. You will retain that client. I tell you, so many businesses go out of business because their model is simply chasing after new, chasing after new, chasing after new, but they're losing. Their back door is huge. They're losing at a fast rate. There's a huge gap. And that margin, that gap has got to close. Otherwise, the margin of error impacts that bottom line, that profitability. And one day that business gets wound up. There is no more. It was going great guns one day, but unfortunately, there wasn't that structure, there wasn't that process to develop that client relationship. So if you're looking at building a customer-centric organization, and part of the reason why I say this is that I've worked with a number of companies around the world as I've judged them for the UK Business Awards and the International Business Awards. My lane has been on customer-centric organizations to ensure that if we want to grow a business, yes, we've got to be good leaders. Yes, we've got to develop the team, but also we have got to have a good process in having a closed back door, but a huge front door where we can attract, but also where, make a note of this if you're making notes, this can often put a big number, change your bottom line number. This is what I said to Bob was, Bob, start thinking about how do we go deeper rather than wider. There's a mentality today, let's go as wide as we can, but we're very superficial in the service that we offer in that product line. Think about your team, your team who could bring great creative ideas to the table. Ask them, how can we go deeper with our clients that we can work with them over a much longer period and be better for them? Back to you. I hope that's answered that.
Yeah, Tony, that's great. I have one very lighter question on a lighter note. What do you think that the good leaders ask the good questions or the good leaders respond the great answers? So which one you think the better leadership quality is?
John Maxwell wrote a book, Good Leaders Ask Great Questions. I think there's a clue there. I think good leaders, they ask great questions. But the great questions are questions that are, I would say, more coaching type questions. So it's not trying to have the great answers. I think the great answers come later, but actually, you know, having clarity is better than being clever, just having an answer. And you know, with a good coach, with a good leader, you know, if you ask great questions, you ask the great questions on the premise and the belief of the following. There are some good answers in the room that need to be developed. There's gold within the room. There's something that I'm not seeing. And therefore, if you can ask good questions, let me put it this way. The quality of your question will determine the quality of the answer. So if you're asking poor questions, you're thinking, we're really not getting anywhere here. Maybe it's because you're asking poor questions. Maybe you need to sit down with somebody for them to help you to think at a higher level. Because the better the question, the better the answer. Let me give you an example of this. If you had 5 minutes where you could sit down with Richard Branson, perhaps the entrepreneur that you might admire. I'm just using him as an example. But you only had 5 minutes to ask one question. And he was going to take about 4.5 minutes to answer that question. So therefore you had 30 seconds. I bet you, if you were like me, you would write out a question, you'd write it out again, you'd really make it clear, you had to up-level that question because you want that question to be the best it can be, because you know you've only got that short time. And therefore, when you come in, so if you use that same idea with your team and you begin to think of some great questions, don't be surprised if you have answers coming back that you hadn't thought about before. So to answer the question, I would say good leaders ask great questions because they understand and believe that within those that they're asking, there's some great answers to be found. I think it was Einstein who said that right in the middle, not on the sideline, right in the middle of a challenge is an answer to be found. Good leaders ask great questions, but those questions have to be worked on to make sure that they're of good quality. Thank you. Great question.
Thank you, Tony. It was lovely hearing you, and me, and I'm sure all of our audience would like to hear a lot more from you. And the good news for them is that we have 2 upcoming sessions for that. Let me just share about that with the people. So first of those session is on future leadership culture, that is on 12th of December. And the second one is on transforming the way of working. It's on 16th January next year, obviously. And both of them are, anyone can subscribe by visiting our website. And other than that, if anybody has any question, they can write to us or contact Tony directly. We have provided the email on our website. Feel free to contact us anytime. Thank you, Tony. I think it was a really very much not just a learning session, and very much something very interesting session I had in many years, I would say.
Thank you. It's been great to be here with you all today. Thank you very much.
I would like to close this this way. Normally people think that the leaders are self-charged. But here we understand that leaders also need the coaching. So if any leader need the coaching, I think Mr. Tony is the right person. So Mr. Tony, thank you so much for, because it's a very learnful session. And all our viewers really learn a lot. I'm sure about that. Thank you so much for your presence.
Thank you.